Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my Morphtronic deck. Now this will be my first deck for the new ban list, so I'm definitely excited about it. Morphtronics are a really cool archetype. They're pretty much based on two things. One thing is that they have different effects whether they're in attack and defense mode, and those effects are usually related to each other. Sometimes they're not, but usually there's a common thread between the effects. And also a big thing about them is kind of supporting each other. A lot of their effects apply to all of them, so they can kind of abuse each other's effects. And once they swarm the field, they're kind of like Six Samurais in that when they have good field presence, they have a lot going on together, which makes them very strong. Overall, it's more of a fun deck type, not very competitive Morphtronics generally, just because their support isn't really aimed at really competitive styles, but it's still a really cool deck type. Usually there's two different ways to run it. Usually people will either run the equip card variant, which I'll kind of talk about in the side deck, but I'm not doing that variant. I did that last time, but now I'm doing more of just straight Morphtronics, focusing on their field card and some of their other support to make the deck work. So first off in this deck, we're going to be running two Gadget Driver, a card that was just designed for Morphtronics to be able to make, a nice play to switch the positions, which will be very powerful with this deck type. And then Boarden. Boarden is kind of an OTK card helping you attack directly, but also having a really nice defensive effect, which is very cool. And then three Boomboxen, very good to run three of this because he becomes very, very powerful when he has, attack boosts, and being able to attack twice is very strong. And then three Celfon, helping you kind of swarm the field, which is a big part of this deck. Obviously based on a lot of luck, but still can be very powerful. And then we have three Radion, again pretty much staple at three, because that is a really insane effect, just making all the Morphtronics gain attack, like a solidarity for your deck. Very, very nice. And then three Scopen, helping us swarm, helping us synchro, and helping us XYZ as well, can be a very nice card for this deck. And then two Slingen, just nice, kind of like that Gravekeeper's card, lets you give up your Morphtronics to destroy things. Just very nice to have access to something like that. For the spells, one Dark Hole, two Junk Box. You can run two or three. I find two is fine, but it's just a really good card overall for what you're trying to do to make Synchro and XYZ plays. One Limiter Removal, not completely necessary, but I do like having it in this deck type. Three Morphtronic Accelerator, just a really great card. I think three is staple in any Morphtronic deck just because of how good it is. And then three Morphtronic Maps, so the field card. Not every deck type that uses Morphtronics runs this. I'm running it. I'm having a lot of fun using it. You can abuse a lot of things to have your Morphtronics, have a lot more attack, which is very nice because a lot of the Morphtronics are weak normally. But if you can get their attacks boosted and get all their effects going, you could start to make some really crazy plays. Then two MST, obviously just, from the new ban list, one Raigeki. I think it'll be very useful for this deck type just because of its kind of weaker, monsters. I think it'll be nice to get rid of some of your opponent's stuff. So nice to have that. Again, Soul Charge is becoming limited, so we're running one Soul Charge. I do like it in this deck type, so we can Synchro Summon and do some stuff there. And for traps, pretty much staple. Not much to say there, but also two Threatening Roar, because I find that this deck type in general is a little weak, so it's nice to stall for just a little bit in order to get what you want out. For the extra deck, we're definitely going to be running a bit of variety, so Catastor can be nice for this deck. Won't be gotten off too often, but can be nice. Ancient Fairy Dragon with field cards could be nice. I'm also trying out Ancient Pixie Dragon, again, kind of something with a field card. It's a very interesting card. I feel like it'll be pretty useful for this deck type. One Armory Arm can be useful for this deck. Obviously, you can get it out with some of the interesting levels we have. Black Rose, 7 stars are the most common ones you can get out, so you can run more 7 stars if you want, but those are the ones that I'm running. And one Goyo Guardian, again, won't be gotten out as often, but you can still get this out, so nice to have, very powerful synchro monster. For XYZs, we're going to be running 4 and 3 stars, so Castel, very powerful one, Exciton, Gagaga, Gigant to search, Alucard, Lavalval Chain, that could be nice with some of the graveyard stuff, Angineer, Silent Honor, and Zen Mains. A lot of these, make sense for this deck type. Angineer, just obvious, but all the other ones are pretty useful, and you'll want them, in various situations. So now for the side deck, if you haven't seen a video of mine before, in the side deck I kind of just go through other recommended cards, other ideas for the deck, other things I've seen other people run. Not meant to be a side deck for matches, so don't try to think of it that way. I just want people to have, other options when they're building their own Morphtronic deck, and I don't want to leave, any of that stuff out there in case people want to experiment. There are a few other Morphtronic monsters that could be useful. Magnan is more for a lock. I'm not really going for a lock. Remoten is some interesting graveyard stuff. I'm not really interested in that. Vacuum is a really weird one that I'm not the hugest fan of, but it has some interesting effects if you can, get its position where you need it to be. Vidion, I've seen some people run, but I'm really not a big fan of this card. Obviously, you need the equip card variation for it. I just don't think it's really necessary because it's such a solo card. You know, it doesn't really help out your other Morphtronics. Creature swap could be interesting for this deck because of the weaker cards we have. It can be very powerful. Enemy controller, obviously, with changing positions can be nice. If you're going to run the equip card variation, run Mage Power or United We Stand or both. Obviously, those are pretty good ones for this deck type. So if you're running the equip card variation, like I was last time, I would say to run those two. Also, Morphtronic Repair Unit is an interesting one. It's kind of a choice. It's, you know, giving up cards for it. I'm not really sure if I'd want to run it, but it is an interesting one. Morphtronic Force Field, I feel like this is not necessary. It's a little situational. No entry, again, changing positions can be powerful for us. Zero Gravity, the same thing. If you're running the equip card variation, then you're probably going to run 2 or 3 Power Tool Dragon. That's just how the variation works. Search out what you need. Obviously, Power Tool Dragon is, you know, meant for this deck type. So if you're going to, you know, go for that, that's what you want to run. Obviously, very powerful when you do get those equip cards out, and you can set up the OTK and stuff like that. And as always, there's other XYZs you could run. Levier and Fortune Tune are two that could be good for this deck. There are probably other ones that I might not have mentioned, but there's a lot of variation in XYZs and what you want to run. So that's my Morphtronic deck. Again, a deck just focused on, you know, doing a lot of things with positions, going for big damage and OTKs. Definitely a fun deck type. I'm not sure whether I like the equip card variation or this one more. They're both really interesting. Equip cards, it's tough because you can lose those resources so quickly, but both deck types do have different variations on how they can go for an OTK, and they do have some strong stuff going for them. And as I said, I do have a lot of fun with this deck type. But if you guys do have your own Morphtronic decks, definitely post below. Let me know in the comments. You could talk about what cards you use, maybe make some suggestions for me. Maybe there's some stuff I didn't think about. I could really love to hear that. So maybe when I update it next time, I'll throw around some new cards. I just want to see what's going on with this archetype because I haven't messed with it for a while. But I do like some of the plays that it can make. But let me know in the comments. That's about it for me, though. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.